Upon seeing the prettiest girl, a young boy immediately runs toward her only to be run off by a truck. However, we will discuss this later. The show begins with a youngster bleeding on a chilly winter night. Before he passes out, he notices a gorgeous girl approaching him who tells him that he will be okay and that this isn't enough to kill him. Her words are calming to him, and she walks away. Yuzaki Nasa is a gifted young man who is well known for his pleasant demeanor. People make light of him for his given name and ask him random questions about Nasa. He was first unaware of the significance of his name, but after learning of it, he began to feel embarrassed. However, he quickly recovered from his chagrin and resolved to achieve something so remarkable that people would remember him more than Nasa. He begins working hard and soon becomes the best student in his class. When his instructor inquires about his future plans, she is astounded to learn that he intends to attend an institution that only accepts students with special skills. She urges him to apply there, but also tells him to choose another alternative in case he is not approved. Nasa, on the other hand, is confident in his abilities and feels he will get admitted. He doesn't want a second alternative since it would weaken him and cause him to become sluggish in his quest. It's late at night after he leaves the school, and he's monologuing about how he's not going to be deterred from chasing his dreams by whatever. Suddenly, his gaze is drawn to a lovely young lady, and he seizes the opportunity to approach her. However, before he can reach her, a vehicle collides with him, leaving him wounded. Nasa notices she is bleeding as the girl checks on him and inquires about her well-being. The other advises him to be quiet since he is seriously hurt and directs the driver to take him to the hospital. The driver asks that she accompany them since she was injured while protecting him, but the girl refuses. Nasa is taken aback by how beautiful she is as she walks away from him, grasping the moon. The moonlight and her presence cure him, and after a gallant effort, he gets up to notify the driver that he is well and can go to the hospital on his own. However, he quickly admits his want to see her again, and the other is amazed that he still has this much energy left. He attempts to stop Nasa, but is overcome by her love and flees. He eventually finds her and confronts her, thanking her for rescuing him. The other tells him to sit alongside her and wipes the blood from his face. She then removes her coat and drapes it over him to keep him warm. This deed makes Nasa fall for her even more, and the other chooses to go since it is chilly, and she has to go home. Nasa attempts to stop her, but as he stands up, he collapses on the floor. The other tells him that both of his legs are shattered and that only the adrenaline surge is keeping him alive. He will soon pass out. Nasa is reminded of the Princess Kaguya story when she goes and vows never to give up on her. He manages to catch up to her, which astounds her. Nasa admits that he has grown in love with her and fears that if he abandons her now, he will never find genuine love. The other is taken aback by his attitude and declares that she would gladly stay with him as long as he is content to be her husband. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Nasa, and he jumped at the chance. He is transported to a hospital after passing out and is told that he is only alive because of the girl's assistance. Because of his injury, he was unable to attend school and had to repeat the year. He finds work in the hopes of seeing the girl eventually, but while earning a living, he is lonely. Someone knocks on his door after he reaches 18, and when he answers it, he is surprised to see the same girl he had fallen for. He invites her in, and the girl, Tsukasa, explains that she is coming to register their marriage. Nasa is taken aback when she pulls out the paperwork, and since this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, he agrees to sign it. They then go to the marriage registration office, and she immediately loves her new name. Nasa realizes she is the only one who hasn't made fun of his name, and the other goes through Nasa's whole history. When they get to their location, the consultant signs their paperwork, and Tsukasa offers him the guardian's agreement form. He gives the two a present, and Nasa is enthusiastic about his future. Tsukasa inquires about the number of futons in his room on their way back, and after learning that there is only one, she assures him that they can do something about it later. Nasa is overjoyed that the two will sleep together and head to their apartment. Nasa wakes up from a short nap and realizes he is now married. His joy has no boundaries, and he feels thrilled that his wife will be living with him from now on. Because he only has a single bed in his apartment, he calculates all of its dimensions and concludes that it will be sufficient for the two of them. However, he failed to ask Tsukasa whether she would be okay with it. Tsukasa comes as he is experimenting with different positions on his bed to see how the two of them might fit, and he feels awful that she saw him like that. The girl informs him that his door was open and that he was not responding to her knocks, causing her to enter without permission. Nasa questioned whether she meant to spend the night there after she brought all of her belongings from her room. When she tells him she wants to spend the rest of her life with him, he is taken aback and tells her about the single bed. Nasa asks her why she married him, but she doesn't want to respond right then and chooses to leave. Nasa promises her that he will sleep on the floor, but the other does not agree and informs him that she will spend the night at a neighboring hotel. However, recognizing his concern, she tells him that she will return in the morning. Nasa stops her as she is ready to depart and informs her that they will purchase a futon. Tsukasa takes advantage of the fact that this is her husband's first gift to purchase a comfortable futon that she likes. Nasa describes the different sorts of foams and if she would be comfortable in them to her at the store. Tsukasa is impressed with his research and remarks on how diligent he is. Despite his permission to purchase anything she wanted, Tsukasa just got a mid-range futon, and after trying it out, she was very comfortable with that. She realizes that there aren't many products, and the two decide to go to the convenience store tomorrow. Tsukasa wears her bedtime attire in the other room as they prepare to sleep, and Nasa still cannot believe they are married despite his delight. She gets up in the middle of the night when the two are sleeping, and after sipping water, she mistakenly snatches the blanket off Nasa, leaving him cold for the rest of the night. The two awaken as the sun rises, and Tsukasa is amazed that she has two blankets with her. She quickly begins changing her clothing, but Nasa stops her. She realizes her error and remarks that it would have been fine if there hadn't been so much light. Nasa worries whether she would be comfortable being nude in the dark with him if she wasn't wearing a bra. Tsukasa puts on an apron to cook breakfast, and the two talk about how they will address each other from now on. Nasa is extremely formal with her, and she is embarrassed about it. Nasa informs her that she looks precisely like a housewife in an apron, and the other is in shock since that is exactly who she is right now. Nasa tells her about his numerous feats of performing chemical mixing, attempting to persuade her that he is an excellent chef. The other, on the other hand, encourages him to relax and let her cook it. As he samples her dish, he is completely submerged in its flavor, while the other gradually educates him on her craft of cooking. They decide to go to the public bath since they don't have one here. Tsukasa warns him ahead of time that she spends considerably more time with her hair since she has to take care of it. Nasa is unconcerned and promises her that he will wait for her. They arrive at the bathhouse after purchasing items from the convenience shop, when Nasa's junior, Arisugawa, who operates the bathhouse, approaches them and makes jokes about him in front of his wife. She constantly mocks him, causing him to explain to Tsukasa that she is making everything up and that nothing of the like occurred. When Arisugawa inquires about their connection and Nasa responds that he is married to her, she is startled. She never imagined anything like this could happen. A person as pitiful as him having a soulmate. She lets Tsukasa easily enter the bath since the pay is in the house, while Nasa has to explain everything that transpired. Arisu is perplexed and tells him she is looking forward to marrying him once they reach their 30s. However, she is delighted for him and gives him advice on all he has to do to make his wife happy. Hearing her, he becomes enthralled and declares his love for his wife in the middle of the street. Tsukasa is ashamed and tells him that hearing anything like that makes her feel timid, even if it makes her pleased. Tsukasa discovers no one inside the bath and removes her clothing to take a bath. At the same time, Nasa is trapped inside with Arisu, who has no intention of leaving him quietly. Tsukasa enters the water and Aya, Arisu's elder sister, approaches her. After apologizing for her unexpected barging, she washes Tsukasa's back, making various comments about her physique. Tsukasa tells Aya her entire name, and she realizes she's linked to Nasa, supposing she is his cousin or sister. Tsukasa maintains silence to keep things quiet. Aya sees the two of them after the bath, and Nasa tells his wife about their acquaintance. Aya is thankful to Nasa for assisting her family in running her company and promises him that she will assist him anytime he needs it. Tsukasa is envious that Nasa is so close to the others on the walk back, and the other misinterprets her timidity by assuming she wants a wedding dress. Tsukasa wants to hear from his lips that she is beautiful, while the other goes out to purchase her a gift. Meanwhile, a little girl observes Tsukasa as she walks to her flat, confirming that she is her sister. Tsukasa arrives at the apartment ahead of Nasa and waits for him to return. While she waits, she decides to clean the whole apartment in order to surprise him. After she finished cleaning and he had returned, she decided to make something for him since he would undoubtedly be hungry. She is ready to begin cooking when she hears a knock on the door and realizes it is her husband. When she answers the door, however, she discovers her foster sister Chido's requests that she return to live with them. The other, on the other hand, has already married and orders her to return home. Chido's amazement upon learning she is married has no boundaries and she becomes gloomy. Nasa approaches her as she sits on the stairwell and inquires as to why she is concerned. She tells him that she cares for someone and that they will no longer be together. Tsukasa hears them and rushes out to greet her husband's return. When the other discovers that he is her husband, she is furious since he kidnapped her sister. Nasa attempts to persuade her of their marriage, and Tsukasa is fascinated by his talents. Chido's is tenacious and drives him away in her car. Chido's directs her servants to take tabloid images of him with them when they arrive at their house, so that Tsukasa loses interest in him and divorces him. Nasa gets away from them and enters Tsukasa's chamber, where he discovers a moon pebble. While he is analyzing it, the others locate him and successfully modify the pictures. Tsukasa arrives and after viewing the images takes him someplace else, while the others believe she is furious and going to leave him. Tsukasa reassures Nasa that he need not be concerned and leads him out of the mansion by a hidden tunnel that the others are unaware of. As they travel through the tunnel to a neighboring church, she tells him that this spot is special to her and that the two of them should go there. Nasa is overjoyed that he can hold her hand in this way as he reaches for a kiss. Right after entering their apartment, Tsukasa wants the two of them to watch a movie. However, she is bewildered to find out that he doesn't have a TV and questions his purpose in life. She goes on to ask him about various popular movies, thinking he would have at least seen one of them, but is surprised that it is so cut off from fiction. After explaining different franchises, Nasa realizes her dedication to cinema and decides to buy a TV. Meanwhile, Chitos and her maid, Aurora, are watching a movie when Charlotte, the other maid, tells them that they should annoy Tsukasa and her husband since the movie is mediocre anyway. However, the two are enraged at her comment. On the other hand, the two head off to a nearby store, and Nasa is having a difficult time choosing a TV. Tsukasa tells him to buy a cheaper one as she doesn't care about the picture quality. Later, Nasa heads to the bath, and there he tells Arisu how much he loves his wife. When she finds out that he still hasn't bought her a ring, she starts lecturing him on the things that women love and assures him that the reason Tsukasa isn't asking is out of goodwill. On their way back, Tsukasa asks that the two hang out at the nearby park, and Nasa feels flustered as they are just sitting quietly, staring at a duck swimming in the pond. Since he feels that his wife is lonely, he slowly reaches for a kiss, and the maids are embarrassed at watching this, eventually deciding that they shouldn't report something like this to their master. Tsukasa feels embarrassed by this and urges him not to do it again in public. Later, just as he leaves for his work, he fears that Tsukasa won't be here when he gets back, and the other calms him down by telling him that he should just hurry back as soon as he is finished with his work. In his office, he feels lonely and realizes that the reason couples wear rings is so they can cope with this feeling and be at ease. After getting back, Tsukasa prepares dinner, and the two sit together to eat. When Nasa brings up the idea of a diamond ring for the two of them, she lectures him on how different wedding and engagement rings are and tells him that they don't need a ring since they are a waste of time. However, Nasa insists that they buy it, and she brings him to an expensive shop to dissuade him from buying it. Nasa is astonished that they are so expensive, and the seller tries to convince him. He is caught up in the other's trap. Tsukasa, seeing his dedication, takes him to a cheap store where the costs aren't as high, but they are still high since it's a diamond ring. Nasa informs her that if they buy the rings, she won't feel lonely, and she realizes that it is all for her sake. She gives him a kiss before heading off. Because she does not want him to spend his funds on the ring, the two finally stop by an even cheaper store, where they purchase a set of identical diamond rings. Tsukasa is glad that she married him, and the two return to their apartment. Tsukasa's sleep is as disturbed as usual, and she suddenly heads straight into his arms. As the two are sleeping together anyway, Nasa chooses to cuddle, a flustered face overtaking his usual one. After getting near her, he acknowledges how beautiful she smells. Suddenly, she opens her eyes, looks straight at him, and kisses him before returning to her futon. In the morning, he realizes that the room is too small for them as he wants to sleep together in a bed with her, and just the thought of having a bigger place excites him. He goes to the bathhouse to consult Arisu, and she agrees that they should go somewhere huge. She fills his head with different ideas of married couples, and now he wants to hold her hands while they are asleep. On his way back, he realizes that if he straight up tells her about his motives, she might get worried and things may not go well for the two, so he'd need better words for convincing her. When he goes home and tells Tsukasa she doesn't mind sharing a smaller apartment with him, since it makes them feel closer and linked. However, he is determined to move into another apartment and attempts to persuade her. He tells her that the two of them may have a movie night in a larger flat with a library of their favorite movies. When she hears this, she quickly accepts, and they go out to locate a suitable place. Since they would need a guarantor to move into their new house, Nasa decides to call his mother, and he ultimately tells his mother about their marriage. She is enraged that he kept it away from her, and after she inquires about the girl, it is revealed that Nasa already told her when he got into an accident. Upon being called the cutest girl in the universe, Tsukasa gets embarrassed and wants to hear it from his mouth again. Nasa doesn't think that the two need to go there to see her, but Tsukasa is thrilled to meet them, so they decide to pay them a visit. The following day, while they are out in the park, Nasa receives a message from his mom informing him that she is caught up to his plan of using her as their guarantor for their new place. Tsukasa is impressed that the whole family is so intelligent, and with no choice left, Nasa decides to visit them. Before arriving at the station, the two purchase a camera, and Tsukasa informs him that it will serve as a secret diary of their married life. He is excited about taking his wife's pictures and making her do various poses. Tsukasa also takes a picture of him so she remembers the day when her husband snapped out and went berserk just so he could use the camera. Meanwhile, Chitos continues to disapprove of their marriage and is determined to cause problems for them. She is keeping a watch on the two with her maids. Later, after they arrive at a station, Nasa is impressed at how tough his wife is, and her energetic aura is enough to cure his tiredness. Chidovas isn't planning on stopping anytime soon and tells her maids that she has a new plan. She has multiple traps up her sleeve but is disappointed when each one fails, and instead of getting mad at each other, Tsukasa and Nasa only grow closer. Later, they decide to eat, and Tsukasa is bewildered that her husband would want to eat in a chain restaurant rather than enjoy the local food. While she is tasting a lime slice, Nasa quickly takes one photo of her, causing her embarrassment. To make up for it, he treats her to something sweet, and the other accepts his apology. After Nasa heads to the bathroom, Chidos takes advantage of the situation and confronts Tsukasa. She isn't happy about her sister's marriage, but the other couldn't care less about whatever she thinks. Suddenly, a live TV shooting is happening, and they quickly run away since they don't want to be on TV. The two head off to their destination, and after a night's sleep, Nasa wakes up, embarrassed that he is leaning on his wife's shoulder. Tsukasa isn't really interested in checking historical sites, but seeing Nasa's passion, she decides to accompany him. She heads off to change her clothes and wear a yukata. Outside, Chidos and her maids once again confront her, and she reveals that she isn't accepting their marriage. Nasa feels that he needs to convince everyone and decides to discuss this with her. Charlotte and Aurora take Tsukasa away to treat her to some pastry, while Chidos is stuck with Nasa. She instructs him to act like her boyfriend, and if he manages to win her over, she will accept their marriage. Charlotte is really curious about what Tsukasa likes about her husband, and the other is too embarrassed to answer this. On the other hand, Chidos asks the same thing of Nasa, to which he pulls out novels to explain her beauty. Chidos realizes that the other doesn't know that she is a good athlete and informs him. The other is even more impressed with her, and her plan fails once more. Nasa reveals how lucky he is to have met Tsukasa and to have made her his wife. Later, Tsukasa reveals that Chidos has left, indicating that she doesn't have a problem with Nasa anymore. On their way to his parents' home, Nasa reveals that they actually belong to Tokyo. But since his father was too interested in archaeology and there were enough sites in Nara, they decided to move there. His mother didn't have a problem either since she loves deer, and moving there meant she could play with plenty of them. Outside at his parents' house, Nasa finds his mother peeking at him, and just as they enter, Nasa notices that they are too nervous. He asks about this, and his father informs him that the sudden marriage took them by surprise and they can't keep their nerves calm. His father wants him to take a bath immediately, much to his surprise, but he doesn't have a choice either. As he heads off, Tsukasa asks whether they have something important to discuss. After he finishes taking the bath, Tsukasa informs him how well-caring his parents are but doesn't reveal whatever they discussed. They decide to sleep in his old room, and he reveals that he plans to keep important things in there. His mom approaches them only to warn his son against making weird noises at night. As they are about to go to sleep, Nasa accidentally asks her to sleep on his arm, and she immediately sleeps beside him. But she was just teasing him. He asked for a kiss before they could go to sleep. She is embarrassed that her husband always makes her do these things, but slowly kisses him. In the morning, after she wakes up, Nasa pretends to sleep so she can go outside. His father takes her to his office and she seems interested in archaeology, but he quickly follows them to inform him that she doesn't have any interest in history. The two decide to check some local sites, and Nasa is amazed that even though she pretends to be not interested in this stuff, she's quite well informed on these matters. Later that night, they decide to go back, and a flashback reveals that Nasa's father thanked Tsukasa for saving him from a guaranteed death. They return to their apartment, only to find it burnt down. Instead of being worried about their stuff being burnt inside, Nasa quickly heads over to his landlord's side to check whether he is okay. Tsukasa is impressed, and this is just a drop of the inner ocean that she loves so much. Upon asking why he's so calm about this, he reveals that he kept all the insurance documents protected since he anticipated a situation like this to arise. Since they don't have any solution right now, they head over to the bath and inform Arisu about this. She reveals that they have a free room and takes them to their apartment. On their way, Tsukasa notices how everyone is lending them a hand in their hard times and can only be so amazed at her magnanimous husband. Arisu heads over to inform her sister, Aya, about them, and the other is enthralled that her lifelong crush will be spending a few days here. Aya mistakes his relationship with Tsukasa and believes that the two are nothing more than just friends. However, when their mother enters and tells them how lovely Nasa's wife is, she is tranced. Before her love life could even start, it has ended and she has only herself to blame for not telling him about her feelings earlier. A few days later, Tsukasa informs Nasa to not wash her clothes. He is surprised by this, and the other reveals that she feels embarrassed that he gets a look at her underwear. Nasa realizes this, and the other decides that she will go to the laundromat from now on. After she goes away, he wants to take a look at her clothes, but Arisu is waiting for this moment and barges in to stop him. She understands that his manly instincts kicked in, but tells him to be careful. Later, their plans change and they both head over to wash their clothes. Nasa notices that she is wearing a tracksuit, and upon inquiring, the other reveals that she doesn't have anything else to wear. Nasa wants to hug her and feel her braless body, but the other stops him from doing anything weird out in the open. Later, he informs Arisu of this, and the other is enraged that he hasn't bought any new clothes for her. He immediately takes her out shopping, and Nasa has a terrific experience shopping together with her. Arisu moves various stuff to their room. Even though they don't want to burden them, she assures them that they are lying around. Nasa wants to help Tsukasa with cooking, but the other feels more comfortable doing it by herself and tells him to wait. After the meal, Arisu enters their room and leaves a muskmelon behind. They want her to enjoy it with them, but she doesn't want to interfere and believes it will make them get closer. Later, Nasa receives a text from his landlord and he informs him of a new place. The two decide to take a look tomorrow. After hearing that they are going to move so soon, Arisu realizes that it was bound to happen and mocks the other for leaving because he doesn't get intimate time with his wife. As they check out the new apartment, Nasa is thrilled that they finally have a bath and a double bed where the two can sleep together. However, they found out that they were misled here and the landlord told them of a different one. Seeing the disappointment on her husband's face, Tsukasa informs him that she will be together with him wherever he goes. The following day, Tsukasa notices Arisu working by herself and decides to help her. Thanks to her help, the two get closer to each other and a new friendship blooms. Aya is shocked that even her sister is better at getting along with Nasa than her and feels like she has been completely sidelined. Later, the two plan to make curry for dinner, but they don't have the spices for it. Nasa wants to go out, but Tsukasa insists that they go together, and Aria's mom suggests a separate route. On their way, Nasa reveals that he chose this path so he could kiss her, but since the other just ate garlic, she is too self-conscious about herself and tells him that they can do so another day. Nasa quickly hugs her from behind as if afraid of being left alone. His wife assures him that she will be there for him, and he is where her home is. Chidos and her maids are astonished to find their apartment burnt down. She is worried about her sister, but her maids assure her that they were out while this happened. Chidos instructs them to find Tsukasa immediately, but they don't need to look anywhere as she is passing by. Chidos wants to know where she looks, but she intentionally misleads them, and Chidos, as naive as she is, actually believes her. After getting home, Tsukasa notices the junk of the consoles and sees Nasa playing around with the takoyaki plate. He doesn't know how it works and she decides to teach him later. Chidos has found their new place again and is enraged that her sister lied to her. Since it is a bathhouse, they decide to take a bath and are amazed at how good their service is. As she is leaving, Chidos wants Tsukasa to come live with her, but the other makes an excuse that they have consoles here. Even though she continuously tries to persuade her, Tsukasa doesn't feel like going back. Chidos wants to buy all kinds of consoles, and upon hearing this, Aya immediately comes out wanting to go live with her in the blissful heaven. She doesn't hide her enthusiasm for gaming, and since their arguing won't be ending anytime soon, they decide to hold a party. Aya doesn't feel like Tsukasa is good at cooking, but the other makes her change her opinion completely. After they are done eating, they decide to play Street Fighter, and it is revealed how mediocre Nasa is at video games. They decide to hold a tournament with the prize of making Nasa do anything, and Aya completely smashes Chidos. The final round is between Tsukasa and Aya, but after the latter easily manages to beat the other, Tsukasa excuses that she is better at retro games. She pulls out the original Street Fighter, and after a lengthy fight, it ends in a draw. After they are done enjoying takoyaki, everybody leaves, and Nasa inquires what Tsukasa was planning to do in case she had won. The other swiftly kisses him and reveals that it was going to be her prize. Nasa receives a call from the company, and he has to spend the rest of the day solving a problem. Due to overworking himself, he falls ill, and Tsukasa takes care of him. While she is cleaning his back, she wonders how it would feel if she was in his place, and starts to get embarrassed. Later, she completely restricts him from overworking again and instructs him to take better care of himself. Even though it might, Lee felt like the other was angry, he completely understands where she was coming from, and assures her that he will do things more efficiently. As the two kiss, he wants to do much more, but the other stops him as he isn't feeling too well. The following morning, Arisu informs Tsukasa about the fireworks and tells her to wear yukata. Tsukasa is about to change clothes when Nasa requests that he wants to see her. She is embarrassed, but since this is his first request, she allows it. At the festival, they try out a game with Chidos and Aya, but he is really bad at it, and Tsukasa realizes that he only excels at operating computers. The two head to a shrine to pray, and just as Nasa is approaching her for a kiss, the others disturb them, and they want to see the fireworks together. As the blooming lighting illuminates the deep darkened sky, Nasa promises himself that he will bring her here every summer just to experience this moment with her. What hurdles await them in the future? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. For more content, leave us a like and follow our channel.